Hi guys, it's your girl Angel, and welcome to another episode of Blood, Bones, and Water. Today's episode is titled "When You Turn Your Back on Religion," and our guest for today is drummers Uloma.
Hi guys, my name is Uloma, and I think that's what I would like to introduce myself as, Uloma.
Don't mind that. So Uloma, it's so nice to have you here.
Thank you.
I think we can really connect on this topic because obviously I see your tweets. I'm just like, it's fair enough because my dad is an atheist as well. So he had a few arguments here and there with my granny because my granny is a really
Interesting.
conk Catholic. So, have you always known that, you were an atheist or like you didn't believe in God?
No, I I actually used to be a very religious person. Like religious person in the sense that I used to preach to people, like go from door to door to preach to people because obviously I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, so that's something that comes with the package. You have to be an evangelist in some way, like from childhood to your adulthood and stuff. So I can say I have been a very religious person and an actual active believer, not just going to church.
So you used to be all those ones that they would dust their
Fully
slippers and they'll go to
involved.
the
And they'll pour me water.
and they'll go to really?
Yes, they'll pour me
Oh
water.
my god,
and
I always
stuff.
thought that was like a Nollywood
No,
movie thing, and
they
that
pour
people
you
don't
water.
actually go to your doors.
They send their dogs. They send their dogs to chase you sometimes.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, I've been there.
So, wow, this is so mind blowing to me because I watch Nollywood movies where there are people actively preaching like door to door, but I just never thought that it actually occurred like in real life. Like someone will go to your door like this and knock.
So you've
Just-
you've never come across a Jehovah's Witness trying to.
I mean, I see them like on the streets, and they're preaching and they're holding like a gramophone. But not that they actually came and then they knocked on my door like to preach to
Oh
me.
dear.
So you had
I'm
experiences
sorry
where
to
people
everyone
would
I-
chase you
Yes.
from their doorstep up to what age?
Oh dear. I was doing this until I was doing it dedicatedly until maybe my early 20s.
Wow. I just
Early 20s, I was still doing it, but now very reluctantly because I was starting to doubt a lot of things I was told.
that makes sense.
Or thoughts.
Were there like any events that prompted you to be like, I don't really believe in you guys, Sky Daddy, using Twitter terms?
So, so I'll just say that I still can't say that there's any event, right? I know that there are like probably like cluster of events and clusters of like questions that I couldn't get answers to, and answers do not exist for them. So I can't say I actually came upon a conclusion at this particular point in it just happened that I found out that yeah, I think you're chasing all of these things so hard because there's nothing to find. So just dump it.
Like that's actually very interesting to me because being a religious like it comes with so much. The first thing it comes with is faith. And for me now it's like, is it that you don't move through life having faith? Because that's literally what religion is. Religion is believing in this thing. That's what faith is. Faith that's in things that you cannot see, in things you have never heard. That's basically what faith is. And I don't think faith is only tied to like religion and who you worship. So it's like, basically, what is faith to you? Especially as an irreligious person.
So one thing I would always say is I I can't knock people for having like faith or believing in religion or being religious at all. I think faith is important. I think believing in something is important to some people. It's honestly a way to make sense of the world. And I mean, when you think about it, what's our purpose here? That's not a question that is easy for people to answer. What are you doing here? Why are you actually here? Where are you coming from? Where are you going to? And what's the point of it all? That's not a question that I can answer, right? And that's not a question that anybody can actually say this is a physical reason why. It is something that they have to hope for and believe in. So I understand it, and like I said, it's a way to make sense of the world. When something tragic happens to you, when you see poverty and distress and suffering, you try to believe in a higher power that
can help
kind of
you.
assures you that there is hope, there is more somewhere. But there are like two sides to that. It makes it very easy to take advantage of people because faith can literally be extrapolated into anything, right? Is the reason there's like a booming industry of pastors who are like taking advantage of people's
faith.
people's faith and people's hopes and people's suffering. It's the reason why a lot of African families have been torn apart, because a pastor tells you this is why you're suffering. It's probably your auntie or your mother,
Or your
and
child.
that's all. It's happened to me in my family
too.
before. We all have stories
Me
like
too.
that.
I remember
Right?
It was traumatic for me, actually.
Yeah, it's I don't think that's something I want to spend my life doing. But faith as a concept, for me, I apply it in my life in other ways, in the sense that, like I said, I believe in community. I believe that humans are social animals and we need to have a community to survive and to thrive. So I have my friends for that. I have like my family as well. I have a strong community of like people that I can, fall back on. And faith for me would just be believing that things can get better. I don't tie it to any higher power or supreme power.
You don't
or
tie it to
anything.
someone who will help it be better.
No.
You tie it to...
I work for
So
it.
basically what you're trying to say is that you think life is a coincidence.
I can't say life is a coincidence. I'll just say that almost everything, if not everything, is ruled by chance. Every single thing. And I don't want us to go I don't want us to go to
No, we must go deeper.
No, I don't want us to
I'm
go
on the
too
opposite
deep.
side
But
of
I'm
the
just
spectrum.
saying that a lot of things are ruled by chance, right? The fact that I was born Nigerian, and so and so person happened to be the head of state when I was born, has shaped my life forever, right? That could be the difference between me getting a better life and a life that is terrible, right? I was at a certain place at a certain time, and this was how it turned out for me. It's all chance. I was born into this family and they are Jehovah's Witnesses, and I happened to also become a Jehovah's Witness. It was all chance. If I were born in a different country to different families, I would also believe in what they believe in.
Yeah.
So it is all chance. I don't think there is anybody out there that is pulling strings and playing games with all. I don't think that's so. But if there is, I will have a lot of questions for the person, because
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of questions that we as humans can, never have answers to. And I feel like that's what ties us to faith. Knowing that we as human beings, like, we don't have the answers. So obviously, like, there should be someone there, right? That's what faith is.
That's what they call the God of the gaps.
Educate me.
No, because that's basically saying that whenever there is something that you cannot explain, you just feel it with that gap. You just feel that gap with the idea that there is a supreme person, the supreme being, or a supernatural power behind it. So every single gap in knowledge that you cannot feel yourself has to be filled by a supreme person. And it's a very problematic way to view things, because this is 2022, and a lot of things that we know now were not things that people could ever understand, say, 100 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Your child, or there were actually times where we used to throw people into the evil forest.
Even
Because
they
they
had
had
bathing, they had twins.
Yeah,
Even bathing wasn't really a thing then.
I mean, people talk about the twins part a lot. There were times where we used to. I mean, people would have injuries on their feet or some parts of their body, and it's it's getting swollen and it's getting rotten and nobody has an explanation for it, and they're like, the gods have cursed you, so they throw you into the evil forest when you die or something. Today we understand that diabetes can cause that,
Yeah, and it's
right?
a
And it's a
multitude of
very
things, yeah.
yeah, and we don't have to fill every gap, every single gap, every single thing that we don't understand. I think the best way to see it is as, at that moment, in this moment, I don't understand this, and it's fine. I will find the answer. I might not find the answer, but it's fine to just keep it open as unexplainable in this moment. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 50 years, there might be an explanation. But right now,
yeah,
we cannot understand it.
That's actually kind of makes sense. Personally, me, Sha, I've gone through like periods where I actually did not believe either for a multitude of reasons. First of all, I was chapel prefect. From like, I was
You
chapel
see, that's
prefect.
one thing I can't believe.
Really?
I
was-
still find it hard to believe. I've seen you talked about it once, and
I was chapel prefect from year 8 to year 12. So that's from like JSS2 to SS3 up until I graduated. And I was chapel prefect and everything. I grew up in a very strong Catholic household, and this was even before like I developed like my personality. Obviously, when I started developing my personality, I kind of had to take a step back from religion, because like my personality is one that my granny would preach against. She like, oh, in the Bible it says no tattoos. I've still not found that part in the Bible. Maybe I haven't read that part yet. No, because the part me I remember is something about no markings on your body for the dead. That's what me I remember. I don't think I've seen thou shalt not have tattoos or anything like that. So, like I've had my periods where I fluctuate. I've had periods where, like I questioned God, which is why I asked you if there was like any core events, because me, I can remember a core event that made me be like, yeah, I took a full break, like at least 1 year from religion. I wasn't praying, nothing, I stopped believing in God. It just did not fill me up in the way it used to do before, especially when I started developing like my own personality and I was not living under my granny's shadow when she would tell me God wouldn't be happy with this and everything. So do you have that experience, especially as a Jehovah's Witness? I've heard of so many stories where they exclude a person from the community. Was that a thing?
yeah, it was a thing.
Where do you is
Maybe
segregation?
it's not. Well,
What's it called?
It's called shunning.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, like you're outcasted or outcasts. I don't know what's the best expression for it would be, but yeah, I'll just say shunning. You're basically treated like an outcast.
Just you, or this extends as well to everybody, your friends who that you're associated with, anybody that is your friend?
When I left, I lost all my friends, every single one of them.
Because they still were in the faith.
I think I like to look at it in a way that I understood it was going to be a difficult decision for them to stay in my life, so I cut them off. It was very necessary that I did that, because I have been a Jehovah's Witness, and I saw the things that were done to people who tried to keep their friends when they left the organization. And I didn't want that. I don't know if love is the expression, but I cared for them so much so that I didn't want them to hurt themselves trying to stay in my life. So I pulled away from all of that, mostly changed my phone lines and my socials and all of that just to protect them from themselves. And it is not something that I regret, because every single time they try to talk to me, or every single time they've tried to talk to me since I left, it's always been one, come back to
God.
Yeah, come back to God. This is not who you are. I don't want anybody telling me that.
You don't want anybody questioning your identity.
I don't even think I see it as questioning my identity, because I, for the most part, do not question religious people. Like I said, I understand why people are religious. I actually applaud them for having faith and all of that. I will not invade your space to ask you questions.
Why you
right?
shouldn't be really.
Yeah, so don't do that to me.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary. Don't try to
Yeah.
do that.
Like as a religious, I wouldn't say I'm religious. I'll say I'm spiritual. I don't fit into that. So I feel like a lot of religious people, churchgoers, etc., spend so much time focusing on the things that God says you can't do, that he forgets about like the core thing. Because I find out that there's so many vile people that are religious and churchgoers. And I won't lie, every time I'm on Twitter, I won't say every time, but there's been a lot of times where I'm on Twitter and the person that is saying the worst thing has
Yeah, a Bible quote
a
in their
Bible
bio or
quote or
something.
something in their bio. So I feel like and for me, my own perspective on faith is that's not who God is. The who God is for me is love, and that is in everything that we do. So for me, even when I was still growing up and I did not understand fully what my dad was, even up till now, as my dad is an atheist, I still tell people that like my dad is religious, because that is the foundation of everything, just loving people. And you find out that there are lots of people that most likely don't believe in God, that are nice as hell, sweet as hell, and they don't have all of this what's it called, this stigma associated with people that are atheists, that they immediately like transcribe to people that are bad, because that's the notion that immediately you're an atheist, it means that you have no morals or you have no principles. So I actually appreciate that in a society like this, as a woman, which is something I'm coming to, surviving being an atheist as a woman, especially a black woman in Nigeria, because it's a thing, because we don't even have autonomy of ourselves. So imagine now you daring to even live in your truth and being like, you know what, yeah, fuck all of these guys and whatever they think that they are. This is who I am. So do you have like a niche where like there are women like, yes, these are my struggles. What are your struggles as an atheist in Nigeria, as a female atheist in Nigeria?
Struggles. I don't know if I see them as struggles, because I honestly just laugh at them. I laugh at them. But there's just this general thing where women who are opinionated and assertive are seen as rebels. Yeah.
Like me.
Yeah. I don't even. You don't have to do much, really,
at all.
You don't have to
As a
do
woman,
much
you
at
don't have to
all.
do much.
You just have to. One opinion is enough to throw you on the floor. So, first of all, nobody expects that. I mean, I've had people tell me that this is something that I would expect from a guy, because many of them just, they're just freestyling through life
Yeah.
and stuff. And they wouldn't expect that from me. And we already have built a society where women are supposed to be the bedrock of morals, right? We're supposed to be the ones holding the family together
Who
with
pray,
morals, like praying
go to
and teaching the
church, yeah.
children how to pray, going to church, what do you call it? Vigils and all of that. So standing out or being the one person who is like, nah, this is all rubbish to me, is very hard, because you're basically telling everyone you're crazy, and they're going to treat you like you are crazy. And you're basically saying, I have no morals, I follow no codes. You're going to be called a lesbian, you're going to be called a prostitute.
Not that is even a bad thing.
And do you understand? Like, they're just going to call you names.
Yeah.
You're going to try to twist it around. But to be very honest, I laugh at them, because what can I say, really?
That makes sense.
And I'm stronger than that. So,
like as a human being, we all have like wants that sometimes cannot be solved by human beings. I won't lie. I know people say, like as long as someone, you shall find a way, but there's just some wants and some needs that as a human being that you have that sometimes you can't even share, and sometimes you pray about it and you actually get answers. Is it that has never happened to you before? Or like, I feel like some people that have faith, yeah, they have seen firsthand, like, I have prayed and people have answered. So they're
Good
saying
for
we're
them,
crazy.
but at the same time, there are people who are praying. Actually, more people who are praying and not getting answered. Say, for example, I study really hard to pass my exams, right? I don't believe in God, and there's like a person, let's say, person B studies really hard as well, and prays to pass her exam, and both of us enter the hall and we come out with A's. Did we get the A because we prayed, or because we did one thing together, which was studying really hard to pass our exams? The common denominator there is that we both studied really hard to pass our exams, not prayer. So whether I pray or not, if I don't study, I am not going to get anything. If you pray, yeah, it helps. You're going to pass your exams because you studied, not because of prayers. So there are so many people, trust me, millions of Nigerians who are praying out there every single day, which is why they keep throwing money at churches, paying pastors, looking for answers, and nothing is being answered. We literally have one of the highest mortality rates in the world, and infant mortality rates, maternal mortality and infant mortality rates in the world. So what are we saying about that, right? We have one of the worst poverty rates in the world. What are you saying, that people are not praying enough? Right? Nigerians have been praying for this country for how long? What's working?
I feel like it ties to what you said, because there's a part in the Bible where
they
say prayer and work like prayer and work hand in hand. So you cannot just pray and sit back, which is what the Nigerian government does.
But you see, that's literally what I'm trying to infer. That yeah, maybe praying does work for people, because asserting yourself, for example, waking up in the morning and saying, I am going to be happy today, can go a long way to help your day, right? So let's just say that it does work. But what actually does the work is doing the work, not praying.
But some people don't do the work. Oh, that's why miracles exist. There's some people that they don't do anything. And I know that obviously there are some shams. That one is certified. There's some pastors that are fake. They're fake prophets. But they're miracles, like people that have been brought out of the worst places. I mean, maybe they were trying their hardest, but they had gotten to a point where they tried and they were just like, you know what, everything else in the hands of God. And all of a sudden there's a turnaround. And I'm speaking from experience, because I've been in terrible situations where I'm just like, you know what, that is it for me, and I'm not just going to try again. And maybe like months later, something that I've been praying for just happens, I'm just like, that makes sense, because the absence of faith means that's a lot.
Okay, I want to ask a question, right? So yeah, 14-seater bus. There's a 14-seater bus carrying 14 people and traveling, and there's a very serious accident, and 12 out of the 14 die. All of them believers, and 2 survive, still believers. And obviously what usually happens is you're thanking God, and you believe in miracles and all of that. So what about the 14 people?
Maybe it was their time.
It was their time. So like, what we're basically saying, that he chooses what time to pluck people from earth.
No, well, I don't think he chooses the time to remove people. I think like everything is preordained by him, and people are going to die.
What's the point then?
There is no point. That's why we move through life with faith. There's actually no point. I feel like he just preordains it, and we don't know. Even myself, as I'm sitting here like this, I'm a believer. Sometimes we fall out and we get back to where we were before. But I don't know when I'm going to die.
No, nobody does.
Exactly. So, but I don't think he plans for me to die. I think he preordains that this is how life is going to go.
So let's say the accident was caused by a very terrible pothole on the road. are you saying that he also preordained that pothole to be there? Like he made your government so irresponsible that they couldn't fill up a pothole, and now we're all pushing it back to God that he preordained this. Now that pothole is going to stay there forever because God preordained this death, this accident. So why fix the pothole if that's his plan?
I feel like that is also tied to men. I won't lie. The government is
our
whack.
government today is preordained by God.
I feel like everything was meant to happen.
Everything was meant to happen.
And that's, you know, when you reason it, that's the thing about life. You cannot go and over reason life, because when you reason it so much.
Is this an argument for God being evil?
No, I think
because it is a very strong argument.
I think it's God just being God, and we just have to move in acceptance. And that's the thing about faith. It's not logical, you know, and I feel like atheists have gotten to the point where they rationalize it, and that's fine.
No, because if I see a pothole on the road and it kills people, what it first tells me is we have a very irresponsible government,
yes,
that does not care to fill up a pothole until it gets really dangerous and deadly for people. And we need to fix this pothole to make sure that less people die from it. So if there is like one set of people who believe that we need to fix this pothole, and the other set of people believe that, oh, God has preordained it like this. So are you making an argument for God being evil?
Obviously not. I'm not making an argument. I just think that everything that happens is preordained. And like I said, in the Bible, there's a whole thing that says work and faith go together. There's no disputing that the government in Nigeria is bad and there shouldn't be potholes on the road. But I don't think God plans for that to happen.
But
I think he knows.
Predestined,
yes, in the sense where I think he knows how you're going to die. Not in the sense that he preordains
as a parent, right? I mean, so many people are going to be parents tomorrow or in future, or are parents right now. As a father, as a mother, when you see your child walking into fire that someone else placed in the wrong spot, when you see your child walking into danger, what do?
You try to save them.
Yeah.
But that would take away what life is. If God comes and does Superman all the fucking time, it's not going to be life. We're going to be in fucking heaven.
But that's what they are portrayed as, like imperfect.
No, God helps us.
Infallible.
God helps us.
Omnipresent.
God helps us, in my perspective. He helps us. But I don't think he goes out of his way.
He's selective.
I don't think he's selective. You know, there's a lot of sadness and poverty. And, you know, I felt that way after my boyfriend died. You know, because my boyfriend, you know, killed himself. And for me, it was a thing of, why couldn't God have, you know, saved him, like in the hospital? Something should have happened. But then the other perspective for me is that God knew that was what was going to happen. And probably that's why God probably puts me there in his life. Because I didn't know Victor for up to 2 years. I knew Victor for 1 year and 6 months. I was sad and he was sad. And his parents had probably just brought him back from what he told me, because, you know, he had a whole suicide attempt. So they probably brought him back for whatever reason. That's how I rationalize it. Maybe to bring him closer to, you know, home. So when he killed himself, I'm just like, you know what, God, you know, I needed this person so much. You could have easily you could have easily saved him. But I rationalized it as God probably knew that Victor was going to die. And at the time, God knew that I needed somebody. No matter how short it was, God knew that for that period in time, I needed somebody to be there for me, because I had just left home and I was dealing with like sexual abuse, physical abuse. And God probably saw that we both needed somebody. And he placed both of us in our lives for that particular time. And he knew that, you know, after this time, Victor is not going to be there anymore. But when I rationalized it, I thought to myself, you know, he brought Victor for a reason. Because before Victor, I was mean as hell. I wasn't mean because I wanted to be mean. I was mean because I was dealing with so much trauma that I didn't want to allow anybody to come into my life. So when Victor came, I became the best version of myself. And I feel like that was the purpose Victor served in my life. And that's why I met Victor. And I feel like the other way around, I came to Victor's life because Victor too really needed a person that was probably just nonchalant and carefree and not as serious about life as we usually are, and to show him that, like, there are actually people that exist like this in this world. So when I say that I feel like everything is preordained, I don't mean that God plans for things to happen. I think for him, he knows that those things are going to happen, and
he does nothing to prevent
he
it.
does not try to interfere.
So you're relegating him to the position of an observer. No, because that's basically what
that is
it's
that
either
is
we're
a fair
pawns,
argument,
right? We're just pawns and pieces,
or he's just
and he's
observing.
having fun, right? Observing us or something.
To be fair, I think he actually observes, So
what is
that makes sense to me, because if we take away God from observing, we can't keep blaming things like potholes on the road and people having accidents and even things like cancer, because obviously he can heal them. But for me, it's a thing of there needs to be balance, and it's unfair. Life is never fair. But if God solves every puzzle in our life, every mystery, life will not be life.
So we need the suffering.
We need
spice.
it. That is literally what life is about.
Are you sure you're not saying this from a place of privilege?
How am I privileged?
No, you are definitely privileged.
Me,
but like you,
Uloma.
Every single one of us has a form of privilege.
I don't think I'm
we
privileged.
We might or might not acknowledge, but all of us, there are children who will never go to school, ever.
Yeah.
There are children who will be born the first day they are being born to the last day they die. They would never have good food.
Yes, but how is that God's fault? That's not his fault. That's man's fault.
How is that man's fault?
Because man is greedy.
Because we're still trying to portray him as this glory chaser. When things go well, we say praise be to God. When things go bad, we take it to the devil.
No, when things go bad, I still say praise God. Oh,
when things go bad, you still say praise God.
I'm just like,
and do you blame
hands.
him for it?
I don't blame him for it.
So why are you giving? Okay, let's just say, someone is dying of cancer, right? Or someone has cancer and it's really, really scary, maybe stage 4 or something. And this person has gone through hell and back trying to get rid of cancer. And there's like there are like scientific innovations to help people overcome cancer these days.
Mm-hmm.
And this person eventually, cancer goes away. We're not going to say, most of us are not going to say thank you to the doctors and scientists.
We're going to say thank you, God.
We're going to say thank you to God. And when someone points out that this person would be dead without science, we're going to say God gave those scientists the brain. What does that mean? You're basically saying that for every good thing that happens,
and for every bad thing,
mm-hmm.
I never say, oh, he's the devil. I always say,
for every bad thing, it doesn't have to be the devil. For every bad thing, we blame ourselves. For every good thing,
I don't blame myself.
We'll give
I won't lie.
But that's what you did. You said he's not our government.
I say he's our government because they don't have sense, and I don't expect God to do the government's work.
So okay, what is God's work and what is the government's work?
That's actually a very valid question that I haven't thought about. The government's work is to do their job. Their job is to make sure that their citizens are safe and they do the right things. Mm-hmm. And God is supposed to bless that work. That is my perspective. He's supposed to help that work be better. But in the Bible, it says that if you don't
with
work,
like majority atheists population who have things in order, God is blessing them. It's not by their own work. God is blessing them to be.
That is still work. I won't lie.
But you see, we're still going to the same spot. We're still going to the spot that says that work is what gets shit done and not prayer.
But sometimes work is not enough.
How is not enough?
I've been in situations where my work was not enough. Like I was trying. Okay, let's go back to Big Brother. I hate to take it back there. But let's actually tie it down to Big Brother. With Big Brother, when you audition, a lot of people don't believe that you actually audition. A lot of people think it's through connection. But this is before me and everything I believe in when I say you have to audition. And your audition number is, you think it's chance, but it's not. Your audition number is about, my audition number was 16,000 and something. And that's coincidence. To some, it will be coincidence. But to people like me, I knew that it took faith to actually make it in there. Praying like, what, God, I've been in such a bad place for so long. I need you to actually do something. And that was the point in my life where I was threatening God. I was like, is it that you show yourself or I kill myself? That was it for me. Mm-hmm. Is it that you show yourself or I'm out? And truly, I got in, and that has been the most spectacular thing in my life. Even for things like top 6, whenever Perry won that poll by a notch, but I feel like God knew that this babe definitely needed a place there. She deserved a place there for all the work that she puts in. And top 6 happened. And do you know something? When I prayed before that eviction night, I was like, you know what, God, I really want to win this show, but like, even if I don't win, I would definitely like to be in top 5, because I knew that there were people out there that did not like me. And I don't think that's coincidence. Do you think that
other people in that house did not pray for that thing you prayed for? So what makes you special?
That they didn't work as hard as me.
Oh, so you think it's your hard work now, not your prayers?
It is my hard work and my prayer, because if I had worked alone, so you think they were not working hard enough? Yes, definitely. I will say that. I don't think so the people were working as hard as me.
The people who have been praying for 12 years, 20 years to get rid of a sickness that they have, a chronic illness that they have, they're not working or praying hard enough.
That's also is a valid question. And you know what? I don't have answers to that.
No, because I feel like...
And maybe like I said, that's what faith is. Not having answers to things that we all want answers to. That is, if we start rationalizing everything, it takes away faith.
We need to rationalize as much things as possible.
But then there's no faith. And imagine a world without faith.
How has faith helped our society as it is right now? Like on a large scale?
So many people are just hanging on to that thread of like faith and hope. Do you know how long I held on to faith and hope that my life was going to get better before I met Victor? Every time. Because if you take those two things away, people are going through life just like that. And I can't speak from an atheist point of view.
We can see from two angles where faith is very necessary for people to survive. Actually, survival instinct for human beings. Yeah. And it is a very interesting plot hole that makes you very susceptible to exploitation.
It does. Yeah, there's two angles to it. And there are fake pastors everywhere that exploit fake miracles. Sometimes I watch clips. I don't believe in speaking in tongues. I think that thing is fake as hell. I'm so sorry. That's their own faith. That's why I don't go out of my way to bash it. That's your faith, and that's how you go through life, which is fair. But I think speaking in tongues is bullshit. And I don't know why I think that. I just don't believe in it. And there are people that fake miracles. There are people that they have those fake prophets, But I feel like for a lot of human beings, like I said, we all have wants and we all have needs. And sometimes we just want to believe that there's someone outside of our sphere that is listening to us and is one day going to answer. And that is what a lot of people are hanging on to.
We wouldn't be as religious as we are right now if we had a government that works. Most of the things that we're outsourcing to a higher power, a supernatural being, are things that our government should provide for us. You wake up in the morning and you're praying that you'll be able to come home safely and sound. That wouldn't be a necessary part of your prayer if you lived in a society where mortality rates, accidents.
But there's some people that are living in places like Singapore.
I'm just saying, like we are not. I'm not saying that people wouldn't pray at all. People would pray less. You're praying for your poverty to end, for things to get better for you, for employment, right? You're praying for the erosion that has taking away your property to go away. You're praying for your business to go fine. You're praying to get admission. You're praying for safe journeys because you know that bandits are on the road. You're praying for literally
a lot of things,
everything.
For existing. But there's some people that are living in normal society that are still praying.
I'm not saying that
because their life is good.
If you remember what I said I didn't say people wouldn't pray at all. I said people wouldn't pray as much as they are right now because they would have a system that works. When you're praying for water and electricity and school and work and these are things that your government is supposed to provide for you. And clearly they are not. That is why outsourcing their duty to a supernatural being who is still not going to intercede because clearly...
Because it still says heaven will help only those...
I think it's really problematic when we indirectly victim blame people who are in very tough situations.
We're not even victim blaming them. We're victim blaming. Okay, we can't even victim. We're not even victim blaming them. We're blaming the government because the government is not helping us. Mm-hmm. They're not helping us. We can't help ourselves. Like we can't even the tiny things. You know that if.
But the Bible.
Do you know that if your road is bad in Nigeria, and let's say your streets, and you have the capacity of fixing it, and you call people to fix it, do you know that the government will arrest you?
I know that I've had stuff like that.
So it's not, we can't do anything, you know. In this case, we actually can't help ourselves, which is why in the Bible it says like work and faith go together. And it's so unfortunate that in Nigeria you cannot work by yourself. You can do what you can, you know. You go to work 9 to 5, and that one self you get a CB, and then when it comes to the core things like water, you cannot go and build a borehole even if you have the resources. You cannot go and build a borehole if the government does not approve it. What if you are building on government land? So at the end of the day, what work can we really do?
But I think we're still going back to the same thing that we're not praying for long life and prosperity. We're not doing that. We're praying to breathe. Mm-hmm. We're literally praying to see the next day, not because there is like the apocalypse is here. We're praying. We have to pray that way because living in Nigeria is a long road of uncertainties. Nigeria can happen to you at any moment. We see it happen to our friends, our loved ones, our associates, and all of that. And we just have to pray that we are covered at all times. The blood of Jesus has covered Nigerian roads a lot more than floods have. I mean, if we're being honest. Yeah. So how much of what we are supposed to do, what our government is supposed to do, are we outsourcing to a higher power? And when do we say this is not working clearly? Because we've been praying that there have been vigils held, and I mean, even religious, I don't know what it's called, concerts held to pray for Nigeria. Camps. And nothing, camps, right? Nothing ever changes. Things remain the same.
And that's not on God, Sha.
Why?
Because that's what I'm saying.
But if God was doing, but let's just say that humans pray, and by chance it happens that things start working. We're still going to attribute it to God. Why?
Like I said, we don't have the questions for that, because that's literally what answers. That's literally what faith is. Not having answers. That is faith. Faith is believing in things that we
Are you sure? Are you sure it's not? Faith does not make us intellectually lazy.
I feel like faith is what keeps us, especially as Nigerians, going. If you take away faith from a lot of Nigerians, I don't think we'll be a lot in this country. Starting from myself. If I was not holding on to the tiny, you know what, God is going to come through for me every time, even up until, you know, as at then, I didn't think I was privileged, but I know that I had some privilege. There was never a time I went hungry, or a time where, you know, like I had to go on the streets and hawk or anything. So I can acknowledge that privilege. You know, there's certain things that I experienced even after I left home, that I knew that people that were actually going through poverty would probably die and never experience. So for me, I feel like that's literally what faith is. Just believing that something is going to happen. Because now, without faith, what is your anchor? Well, that's a question. What keeps you going? Because for me, it's a thing of God is going to come through for me all the time. I don't know if he is, and to be honest, like I said, I don't even know if he actually exists. But that's that faith that keeps me going. Because if I'm like, it doesn't exist, that takes away a huge chunk of everything from me. That takes away my will to live, because I'm only living right now through faith that things will get better. And because I'm a human being and I have wants and needs, and I want to, feel like someone out there other than a human being can help me. So even when I'm having hard times and I pray, I just feel like a certain peace. Not that I know that someone is listening for sure, but just with the hope and the assurance that amen, someone is listening. So what is your anchor as a human being? How do you go through life without
why is it
that
shocking?
I don't know.
I can't believe.
Let me tell you why it's shocking for me.
Okay.
I don't know why it's shocking for others. It's shocking for me because I wouldn't be alive without faith. I would literally die. I'll kill myself. That's it. I'm only here because of faith and the belief that someday my life is going to get better than this, and the belief that it was that faith that brought me here.
You don't think that there are people who would also hold that belief that things will get better without thinking that there's a higher power that's going to be responsible for it? Because I know that all my atheist friends as well believe that things will get better for them, right? Mm-hmm. They're probably putting things in order to make sure that happens. We're all trying our best, right? But I don't see it as something. I believe that I have an anchor in the community of friends and loved ones that I have. Yes. I believe that I have people that I trust that I can always fall back on. I believe I have a family that sincerely, genuinely loves me. And that gets me going.
And that's what I'm saying. And that's because, like you said, we all have privilege in some capacity. And that's because you have the privilege of having great friends, a great family. You have an anchor. There's so many people that this is all they have had.
And that is fine. That is why in the beginning of this conversation, I said that I fully understand why people have to believe in something. Mm-hmm. It is hard to explain why we're here, what keeps us going, and all of that. Where are we going? It's just hard to explain all of these concepts to people from a logical standpoint, no matter how logical you're trying to be. So people need to have faith. But then I don't find it necessary that I have to hold on to a higher source, right? Because I can clearly see that the most religious countries in the world are mostly the most impoverished as well. So what exactly is the point of faith
because a lot of people in the religious countries are religious extremists, like they tie, and I feel like maybe the Bible was, what's the word? I'm looking for the word. I can't remember the word. I feel like a huge chunk of the Bible was misinterpreted. Is that a right word?
So yes, I think it's fine.
So, and that's, there was a point in the podcast where I said that we focus so much on what God says we can't do that we forget the things that God says we can do. And do you know what God says we can't do? God says that we can be accepting.
You know why I talked about chance? Part of the reason I talked about chance in the beginning is still this conversation about it's not just faith, right? It's about like a specific religion. The reason we are Christians in Nigeria is that we were colonized by the British. Yeah. And they brought Christianity to us. I would have probably been what they call a pagan if I were born 100, 200 years ago. And that would still be me trying to understand why I am here, the reasons things happen, and where I'm going, where I came from, what I'm doing here, and where I'm going. But we have organized religion today, mostly brought on by colonization. People are going to say Christianity was in Africa before colonization, but the Christianity you practice in that is practiced in Ethiopia and the Christianity being practiced here are two different brands of Christianity. I don't know if they know that. And I also don't, I think it's very disingenuous to also say that because it was here before colonization, or it was in Africa before colonization, that is why it came to us. The reason it came to us, we wouldn't have had any contact with Christianity without colonization. That's the main reason it came to us. It was not, it didn't come here because Ethiopians brought it to us. It came here through colonization. And when we talk about God, we are more likely to singularize it, right? If I'm talking to someone from, if I'm talking to a Jewish person, their concept might be different. If I'm talking to a Muslim, their concept might be different. If I'm talking to someone who probably is a traditionalist, their concept of God would also be different. So which one is it? Which one of these thousands of God is it? Are we strong in our opinions and our beliefs that it is just one person? Or are we going to leave room for understanding that different cultures, different times, different peoples had their own interpretation of
Who
God,
God was.
who God was, and specifically to their time? Suffering has brought religion to existence. Suffering has brought religion to existence. War has brought religion to existence. So at what point are we going to concede the fact that none of us have a, will I say, none of us have,
You actually don't have the answers.
yeah, I don't think any of us have the answers.
Yeah.
But there's just something that comes with religion, with organized religion, that tells you this is the one true God and no one else is true. Everyone else is false.
Yeah.
It's broken down by sects, it's broken down by denominations. So as someone who goes to this Pentecostal church, I believe everyone else is damned and doomed, and I'm the only one who's going to get saved. I believe that is Jehovah's Witness, because that was what I was taught. There are only going to be 144,000 Jehovah's Witnesses who go to heaven, and the only people who inherit the earth that was going to be cleansed by God was going to be Jehovah's Witnesses. So I think answering the question of a question that was thrown earlier about how I came to that point where I'm like, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore, was me understanding that if I weren't born a Jehovah's Witness, I don't know what I would be. If my father hadn't converted at a particular point, and my maternal grandfather hadn't converted at a particular point, I would probably be a pagan, right? I'll probably be treated as an outcast because I believe in something that conventions do not allow. And I cannot strongly hold that my religion is the only true religion. That position has led to wars that we can't even conquer. That position has led to discrimination, it's led to stereotypes, it's led to agony. So at what point is humanity going to come to the point where, like, we can have faith, but we can also understand that you do not have the monopoly of God? Right?
And I agree with that, because do you know one thing that is, I know I've been hammering on this a lot, but one thing that is consistent with all the gods that people believe in through religion, through eras, through the Stone Age, the only consistent thing is that God is love. It is literally so simple. And I feel like life would be simpler if everybody just imbibes that. It doesn't matter what the person's sex is, gender is, sexual identity, or how they choose to express themselves. God is simply acceptance and love, full stop. And a lot of people, I feel, need to wrap their heads around that. That's why I said, even when my dad told me he was an atheist, although when I was younger it took me time to wrap my head around that, when I started growing older, I started believing that my dad was a smaller God in himself. Because truthfully, I feel like everybody that exudes love and acceptance, you are a small God, and that is it for me. It doesn't have to be anything complex or anything. It doesn't even have to be about us knowing. It simply has to be love, full stop, and faith, and that is something that moves through all the gods that people believe in, that this person accepts you, a human being, as what you are.
How would you see the story of, this is just random, not really very random, but how would you see the story of Moses, Joshua, and the Canaanites?
And you what?
The Canaanites.
What? So I was chapel prefect, but I don't remember the story.
No, the promised land, the story of the promised land, basically.
What was the promised land again? They'll go to a land full of milk and honey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he parted the sea. Yes, what happened after then?
So, let me just summarize.
Do you know one thing I like about atheists? They know the Bible. My father can sit here and he quotes the Bible for you. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's for those who have history. I've actually met people that don't know any Bible character because they just never grew up that way. Yeah, I was talking about Moses and Joshua and the promised land. So they spent about 400 years in captivity in Egypt, right? And they came out, and their journey was supposed to take 40 days to get to this land overflowing with milk and honey.
But it took 400 days?
400 years in captivity as slaves in Egypt. I mean, the Israelites.
Okay.
Right. And they came out. The journey was supposed to take 40 days, but for some reason, it took 40 years instead to get to the promised land.
That was long.
Now, here's the thing about the story that gets interesting. If someone or a group of people came today under the name of their religion or God and took 40 years to sojourn and get to a particular point and decide that, we are going to, this land belongs to us. God told us that this land belongs to us, and we are going to spy and conquer and kill people, take people off their land. We are going to call it genocide. We are going to call it mass murder. We are going to call it a massacre, right? We are going to call the UN and every organization that exists. We're going to call them terrorists, right? But we have a story like that in the Bible that is being portrayed as a very brilliant, good story, a show, a display of God's promise in fulfillment. But it was basically Moses, Joshua, and the Israelites going to someone's land, claiming that it was theirs, killing people, stealing their land.
To Egypt.
He led the journey. He did not see it through. Not me.
He went to save the Israelites now because they were sorry. Obviously, I've not been in school for a long time.
But you read your Bible.
I pray and I talk to God as my paddy.
Okay, I think it's just because.
But wait, I actually need a refresh on Moses' story. So Moses, Abi, was, there was a time where the king, the Pharaoh then, if I remember correctly, was killing all the firstborn sons of Israel, Abi, because he heard that one of them, something.
So when Moses told him, let my people go. So when he eventually let the Israelites go, right? And Pharaoh chased after them. And
yes, but that's my question is, what land were they in? Because they were in
Egypt.
Were they in Egypt? Or
Pharaoh
Egyptians stole their land and they wanted to get it back?
No.
Okay, so they were in Egypt. The funny thing is that they were not in Egypt to take over Egypt's land. They were in Egypt to release the Israelites that Egyptians were slaving, so that Israel will go and find their own land. You
definitely need to read your Bible.
No, now Shebi Moses went to go and take.
I was talking about Canaan. Now you're talking about Egypt.
No,
that's two different places.
You said that Moses went to Egypt to let their people go.
No, that's not what I said.
What were you saying?
I was talking specifically about Moses, it's basically his mission in life. God spoke to him that he was going to be the vessel. Oh, so you're saying that
he invaded another man's land that was not their land?
Canaan. So the land we read about in the Bible, overflowing with milk and honey,
was another man's land.
Was another man's land.
So God promised that land to them.
To them. So you will call that genocide today. You call that terrorism. It's actually happening somewhere today. It's happened in Nigeria. It's happening in Nigeria. Like, well, we're literally, we understand terrorism and genocide when we are the ones who are affected. But when we read it in flowery stories that have been embellished and glamorized, we don't see it that way. We see it as something special. That is what happens when you tell people that what you believe in does not have to make sense for you to hold it dear. Right? And that is just one story in the Bible that is off. That is just one. There are so many stories like that if we try to actually dissect what this means, I'm not sure we'll go far. You probably, I honestly don't like bringing them up in conversations because these were things I read and I was like, First of all, one of the reasons I definitely had to turn my back on religion was how religion as a whole views women. Right? You cannot tell me I was a second thought and I was an afterthought. God created man.
Did you tell us that?
No, God created man, and then he was like, "Oh my God, I think he needs company."
I don't think women were second thoughts in that instance. I think he thought, you know what, he needs someone to like
That's
a friend.
You're describing a second thought.
How?
An afterthought. So we were not in the original plan. And here's the story,
Would
right?
you have said that if it was man he created again?
It was an afterthought, yes. Men would also be angry if they were told they were afterthoughts. But I think women have learned to accept that. We have the first day, the second day of creation, the third and fourth day of creation, the fifth day of creation. God created sea animals, flying animals, land animals, and he created all of them male and female, right? He created trees and plants and vegetation with male and female reproductive organs. But on the sixth day, you want to tell me that he suddenly forgot to create the woman until he looked at the man and said, I think he might need company. There's something terribly wrong with that narrative. People are going to tell you there were two creation stories in the Bible, which still brings us to the point
but what
that
God
we
also
cannot...
said that everything, I don't think he thought of women as an afterthought. Because at the end of Genesis, do you know what God said? And everything that he created was beautiful. Even this Lucifer that is terrorizing us up and down. Everything was beautiful. So I don't think
Are you interested in dissecting this? Because you mentioned something earlier that we can go deep, right?
I don't think I'm interested like that, Sha.
But you've brought Lucifer, the devil, into the conversation. How many people did the devil murder in the Bible?
To be fair, Sha, I've not read my Bible in a long time.
You should remember, this guy is so bad. He's being taught in different...
I feel like he just tempts people.
He tempts. Oh,
yeah, like how he told.
So he has
God
no.
That brings me back to when he told God to turn stone to bread, and God was like, "Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out from the mouth of God." Yes, that's what I'm saying. So, to be fair, I don't think he ever murdered anyone.
How many people did God murder in the Bible?
I don't also know that.
2.5 million.
Where was that recorded?
You can read the whole Bible and count every single murder that was orchestrated, and it all amounts to at least 2.5 million. Could be bigger than that, 10 times bigger than that.
I feel like the Bible was misconstrued.
Oh, you see, that's where we get here. So we choose parts that are loving and nice and say,
no, because
God did
I don't,
this.
like,
and
you know, there's a part in the Bible
evil.
that, you know, there are people that say that God is against same-sex marriages. I don't think that's in the Bible.
I don't think I've ever read that. I don't care if it's in the Bible or not. It's foolish. It's as simple as that. I don't care if it's in your constitution, in your culture, in your Bible. It is stupid. It's 2022. Stop being a bigot. It's that simple for me.
For me as well.
And there's also 2.5 million against 0. And 0 is actually...
But it's the devil that goes to cause the havoc.
Which havoc?
He causes so much. I feel like it cannot be God that will be whispering in my ear, kill yourself, jump.
The firstborn sons
I don't think it's God
of Egypt that were killed, was it the devil too?
They did not want to let his people go.
So
now.
he had to kill innocent kids.
That's also a very fair argument, you know.
He had to kill innocent kids that had nothing to do with the conversation.
But to be fair, Pharaoh also killed all the firstborn, so it was like revenge now for his people. The Pharaoh not
Interesting.
kill
So we're
all the
pawns
first-
then,
all
because
the
you
first
you, you
sons
you were
of-
arguing initially that he's just an observer, but now we are talking about him being a participant in the process, which is an entirely different argument, right?
That's fair. You know, I'm still going to go back to faith. I feel like that's what faith is, believing blindly. And obviously, I hold no sentiments towards people that do not believe in him. you
So
know.
I hope when we understand, when we say that people are allowed to believe blindly, we are ready to accept the consequences of that single rule.
But
Blindly,
did you ever try to get to know him
know him.
beyond Jehovah's Witness
Yes. And why is it a him
or a her?
or a her?
I believe God is a woman, Sha. I believe God is everything because, also in the Bible, it says God created us in his image and likeness. So it means that God is you as you look like, and God is a chicken. God is everything that we see, breathing and living. God is flowers, God is trees. We can't limit God to what he is
Oh, I believe
or
God
what
is.
they are. So
I believe God is Beyonce.
I will sip to that.
That's my own.
So did you go
Well,
to
did I ever try to
yeah.
find? Yes, I interacted with different religions. I studied them.
I still did
think-
not connect.
Nah.
That sounds like
Like
my
I
dad.
said, this is the way that people try to make sense of the world around them, to understand where they're coming from, why they're here, and where they're going. These three things. And I understand it from a cultural and historical perspective, where different cultures are shaped by, what they believe in. And
Yeah.
this is what they hold dear. These are the shared beliefs. I can't take that from them. But then why do I have to stick to one when I can just understand all of them equally? Right? I understand why a child who was raised who was actually not raised, who was raised by the streets can join a gang tomorrow, because it's very easy to
Be affiliated.
it's very easy to be taken that young. I understand all of that. I fully understand why things like that get to shape people's beliefs, political beliefs, religious beliefs and ideologies, but I do not want to partake in them. I understand why someone who has been praying for a child for 24 years finally gets one and thanks God. Come on, that's a very difficult thing for anyone to go through. But
You don't think you have to believe in them.
I don't think I have to believe in
and
that.
that's fine, to be fair. Like, I feel like you not believing in God does not take anything from you. I don't feel like it makes you like less of a person. Everybody should just stick to the things that they believe in. And I feel like the world would definitely be a better place without you dressing a certain way and you believe in God though, and then someone comes to tell you God do not. Because how do you know? How do you know that God do not accept it? Did he come and whisper in your ear and tell you yes? So I feel like I said in the beginning, the simplest form of God is that he loves us irrespective of who we are, what we look like, how we dress. And the world would be a better place if we all just move through with love and acceptance. And I'm glad that you also accept, people who are religious, knowing that you yourself, you're irreligious. It's not a lot of people in Nigeria you find that can stand for two things, because two truths can't coexist. There's people that can believe in their God, and then there's you on the opposite spectrum who does not believe. And I feel like maybe society should be more accepting of those that are religious as well, because irreligious does not equal immoral.
Do you think there's ever going to come to that point? Speaking about Nigeria in particular, do you think we're ever going to come to the point where we understand that?
No. Do you know the do you know the plenty battles that we're facing in Nigeria? Nigerians that we have not even finished fighting, what's it called? That you dress a certain way does not mean you deserve to be assaulted or raped. You can see that with that Ore babe on Twitter, where I saw one tweet was like, if they rape you now, you say,
"Oh God, no trigger warning, please."
I'm so sorry, but like they have even done that to me as well, where they're like, I wish I could rape this girl.
I've definitely gotten comments like that. So
like if I've not gotten there, it will take us a long time, and we'll probably even have to die safe before people realize that, you know what, two things can coexist, and that's fine. So yeah, this was a great episode because you definitely asked me questions that I've never thought about before. We'll never think about them because if I think about them too much, you go get a CB. But I'm glad that you came, on this episode, and I appreciate you for that.
Thank you, Angel.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So moving forward.
Thanks, guys.
So moving forward in appreciation, or rather,
You're kidding.
we brought a little gift box for you.
Thank you.
With a note, there's like a heating pad in there. I know how much women love heating pads, and I'm so sorry that I censored this around women, but I really love women. So, anyways, thank you so much for coming to this podcast. I appreciate you sharing, your perspective with us. And honestly, like I wish you more safe spaces, because we need a lot of safe spaces in Nigeria for a lot of people. There's so many sections of people, and I don't think that in Nigeria we have grown to accept that as human beings we come in like different shapes and in different forms, and as long as you're not hurting anybody, make everybody just day. So I appreciate you for coming.
Thank you.
This was an interesting conversation.
I appreciate you for having me.
And I'm sure like you gave our audience a lot to think about.
I'm sorry if you think too much.
And I'm sure they will drag us. But both of us are used to the lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
Especially you, Uloma.
Oh dear.
They drag you every 2 market days.
I was made for it.
Every AK market day like this, Uloma is being dragged somewhere. So, did you enjoy the podcast?
Yes, I did.
Do you want to read your notes?
Okay.
To the audience.
I didn't know if it was okay. I love it. Hi, Uloma. Thank you so much for coming to my podcast. I acknowledge people who aren't scared to be themselves. You're an independent and strong woman, and I admire your resistance. With love, Angel, Bubbles, and Water. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming again. And to round things up, we're going to play a little game that I hope you're good at. If not, you're going to have to take a shot.
Oh my God.
Shot.
What's that?
So basically, the game is, I say a letter. If I say M now, I'll say money fall on you.
Oh shit.
Banana fall on you. Because it starts with M. If I say S, I'll say Smile by Wizkid.
Well, no, that's not a song. Smile.
Yes, sir.
Is that how it starts? You see?
Okay, I would have failed, Sha, because it starts with A. All I want to do is smile. Baby, just smile.
How many, okay.
Heavy
let's see how it goes.
stand here. Anyways, so first letter is W.
Woman, what's that singing song? You know what's
Woman,
crazy?
don't suffer.
It was W I had in my head.
Suffer.
Woman, don't suffer. Yes,
there's also Water.
Water. You know, get telling me.
Yeah. There's also that one by Davido.
Which one?
Okay, that starts with B. Baby, water.
I'm actually doing better at this than you.
Yeah. Let's start with E. E is so easy. It's a vowel.
See, I already had a letter in my head. And you took it.
You have 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
5.
You don't want to know the song I want to sing.
Sing it.
Like, it's a local song. I'm sorry, I have to drink. Thank you.
After you drink, you have to tell us what song you wanted to sing. If it was me, I'd have been like, Efe Joku, Efe Edge.
The song I want to start. The song I wanted to sing starts with Ebenebe. I don't even know how that came about.
Ebenebe. You know, it does not have to be like the beginning of the song. It can just even be a lyric.
If I tell you, say I love you.
Dun, dun.
See,
body
that's the
and
extent to
your
which
own.
I can remember.
Which other song starts with I? Okay, there's If You See Me Drive By,
I'll at your boy.
Got My Swag,
I'll at your boy.
I Pop My Bottles.
You're really a Wizkid fan.
Chilling with Uloma. Heavy on whiskey. Last letter. P.
Policy. I told you, I don't know. These songs that enter my head when you're playing.
See me thinking about Ashake, Padimios.
I'm so sorry. Like, I'm singing. That was
Wait, but
bright.
what
That was
year were you
bright.
born in?
Chimezie. Sorry, I consume music from every
Era.
generation.
That makes
era.
sense.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'll give you one last one.
Oh no! Wow. I'll still sing one. Yeah, but that was bright Chimezie. That's
F. Even myself, I don't know F. The only F I know does not start with F. It starts with A. Finesse, get if I broke down my business.
no. It's the songs in my head.
F. What about Beyonce? She sang any song with F. What about Nicki?
Let me just drink. I'm sorry.
There's Nicki now. No, but that's S.
Why do you give me a question you can't answer?
It's not me that is drinking, it's you now. So anyways, Uloma, thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed this podcast.
I tried it too.
And you suck at this game, Sha. Because there's Nicki Minaj for F. F-R-E-A-K.
All the songs I know that have anything to do with F didn't start with F. Their choruses didn't start with F. So
Makes sense. So, today has been, or this episode has been such an amazing episode. I got to see Uloma's perspective, and hopefully you guys will be able to see her perspective too. Thank you so much for tuning to yet another episode of...
And when you're dragging me, make sure you spell my name right.
No, actually, spell your name for the audience.
Oh, my name, that Dolan. It's their job.
You. Okay, they will learn. Anyways, when you drag Uloma and myself for some things that I might have said as well, sorry guys. Make sure you spell our names right. Thank you for tuning to yet another episode of Blood, Bones and Water. It's been your girl, Angel, with
Uloma.
Drag Us Politely. Thank you.